Hello! Welcome to my home studio. I wanted to do this here at home instead of at work where I do most of my newborn sessions because I wanted to see how you can work with natural light. Honestly, I love natural light. It is better than the studio lights that I use, at least on specific days. It's a little bit inconsistent sometimes. Today is a perfect day. It's cloudy right now. It was super sunny and I was worried. If it were super sunny, I probably would have put another sheet up. But I got to start with my acronym though. We are on the L of the LAPS formula. So we are teaching light right now. And I wanted to talk to you about some of the quality of light that we're using. This sheet here diffuses the light, and I like to use it because when it's not there, the shadows are really harsh. So as you can see, the light is coming over her, and this side of her face is really dark and this is really bright. I like to take it down a little bit so that it's a more soft light, especially on a baby. So I taped up this sheet to help me with that. I do have white curtains, and sometimes I use those when it's really sunny. But what you'll see here is that it's actually a little bit too dark with the curtain, so I didn't use that. Another thing you want to be careful about is that you don't want to use a colorful sheet. What happens if you use a colorful sheet is that the light will come in as that color. So it will be sort of a blue casting on your baby. So avoid colorful sheets. And another thing is that, at my house, there's a wall that sort of reflects light that's over there. And it's good because it's a pretty light neutral color. It's like a light gray. If it were like a blue or a green or yellow, that might send a colorful light down onto the baby. And that's not what you want. So I have a nice white sheet, I have a baby, and I have a diffused light. So that's what we're starting with, is the quality of our light. One thing is, this is an ideal setup. I'm on the floor and the light goes all the way down to the floor. Sometimes you might have a bed and then a window right above it. So what you'll do then is you will use your bed as the platform. And as the light comes in, you want your baby sort of on the same level as the light if possible. So look around your home. I encourage you to check it out. Put your baby down and kind of look at what the light looks like. Does it look soft and diffused? Does it look harsh? Does it look dark? You might experiment with different times of the day. I do that a lot where I'm like kind of checking. If a house doesn't have any windows that cast a nice even light, one other thing you can do is open your front door. If your front door, it goes to the floor, it can have a nice light that comes in. So just look around and see what you see. So that was the L, just about light. Angle actually has a component with light as well. So we're on the A, angle. And with angle, we have actually 3 different angles that we need to talk about. The first angle is the angle of the light. And the way the light comes in is very strategic, the way I have placed Ellie here. I'm going to open this so that you can kind of see it more exaggerated. What I want is for this light to come in across her face at this 45-degree angle. And you can see this shadow right here is sort of casting downward. If we had her the wrong direction, the shadow would be coming up like this. What we want is the shadow to be coming across and down like this. And you can kind of see the outline of it right here. So that's our 45-degree angle. If you want to see how it would look, another not so great lighting scenario is when you put their feet towards the light. And I know that could be sort of an instinctual thing, like, oh, the light is falling on her face. But what it's actually doing is it's going up her face. And it's sort of like holding a flashlight under your chin, how it sends light up your nostrils and it makes dark circles right here under the eyes. So you don't want that. You see how it's dark here. The cheeks make a shadow right under the eyes, and you don't want that. You also don't want it straight like this, especially if you have a small window. What you'll find is that you have one side of the face completely bright and the other side completely dark. And if you're working with a smaller window and you're noticing that the light is sort of bright on one side and dark on the other, one of the things that I like to do, I'm going to leave this open just to show, just for a demonstration, even though I like it softer. But what I like to do is use some kind of a white reflector to cast some light right onto this side of the face. You can use a pillow or a sheet or whatever you can get here. You can have somebody else hold it, or you see how that works? See how this light right here really shines onto her. There it is without, and there it is with. That's another little trick. For now, I'm gonna let this down. That is the angle of the light. Now we're gonna talk about the angle of the baby. I am going to take this off to show you what I've done. This pillow here isn't just for funsies. This pillow here is to lift her up so that we get a nice focus on her eyes. And the way I do that is I take this tower, I call it my blanket tower, and these are actually dish towels. And I take these dish towels and I stack them up so they make a ramp. And then I put it right here in the middle. You could also make it a little bit taller. I've seen that too, and I've done that, where you bring them all really far up so you're really focusing just on this little part of their face. So it's really important to get these wrinkles out. That's one of the things that will sort of up level your photos, is if your background is nice. Ellie is sleeping today, and I want to tell you that most babies don't just sleep through their photo sessions, and that's why they usually take a while. I would often wrap a baby, soothe the baby, do a lot of rocking, and then gently set her down to get a photo. And it may take several tries. So she is like 1 in 50 today that will sleep through the whole session. And you might luck out and have a baby like that, but it's not common. We've got the angle of the light. We've got the angle of her head. So we have her up like this. And that is a newborn kind of an angle. I do want to show you what would happen if Ellie were sitting or pushing up on her hands, sort of around 3 or 4 months. You can turn them on their bellies, but if you did that here, if you set her on her belly here, her face would be into the dark. So the angle of the light will change if your baby is not laying on her back. So I'm going to show you what I would do if she were a sitting baby. I would turn her this direction and I would have her this way so that her face is towards the light. And obviously this mattress that I'm using is for newborns only. If this were an older baby, I would take 2 chairs and clamp up the fabric on there, obviously really tight, or I could use the pack and play method where you take the mattress out of the pack and play and then you strap up the fabric up onto it. So if she were a sitter, she would be like this, and this would be our 45-degree angle here, so that she's not straight at it, but at an angle like this. And if I wanted to do the 3-month photo, I would turn this around because the bump is here, and then that would be up on the pack and play. And then she's not very flexible, but if she were, she could be on her hands and her little face could be up like this. So that's a good one for babies over 3 months. The other angle we need to talk about is the camera angle. And I see a lot of people doing pictures like this. They hold their camera at an angle like this. I don't know, maybe that is a 45-degree angle. That is not what we want. We want more of like a, what is this, 90-degree angle? So you want to hold it straight above, just like this. Or you can do horizontal, just like this. You could even come in kind of close and tip it towards you so that you get nice details of eyelashes and face. Her hat is a little bit asymmetrical, so you would take a photo like this. That's pretty cute. Good job, Ellie. So that is angle of camera. The next thing we can talk about is P for pose. And as you can see here, I have Ellie in a wrap. And for newborns, that works really well because when they aren't wrapped, their arms start flailing around. And you know probably from experience that having them swaddled keeps them calm. And so posing newborns, the easiest pose to do is with the wrap, I believe. But if they're asleep and you have a cute outfit you want to use, you can do this pose on her back like this and unwrap her. Or you could unwrap just her hands and you can let her have her hands up like this. That's a really cute pose. So with newborns, you can do some kind of fun poses because they can fall asleep in certain positions. When they get older, sometimes posing them means just getting them in one spot and to hold still, especially as they get to the point where they can crawl. Honestly, my favorite is when they can sit, but they can't crawl, and you can just make them laugh and you sit them up and obviously towards the light like that, but you can sit them up and they can have a good time just sitting still. When they're older, it's all about distractions. So the posing for that is basically get your baby on there and take a photo. So I'm going to show you what I can do with a prop, and that's kind of a fun posing thing to do with babies. There aren't tons of options. This here is my little boho basket, and I'll show you what I've done on the inside of it. I got this basket at a thrift store, and I made a little ramp upward in the corner. So I'm gonna put her here, and her head is gonna be up here. So putting her flat would do that thing where it goes up her nose, and that's never the best. It's not really the most flattering. So I got this at the thrift store. This is an old swaddle, and then there's a receiving blanket to kind of make this ramp. And then I got this at a thrift store too. I think it was a tablecloth or something like that. So I'm just gonna kind of drape it over the top. And then once again, I'm doing my 45-degree angle from the light, and I'm gonna take her and I'm gonna put her right here with her head up. And depending on how big your baby is, you might need to make it a little more padded up there. Of course, you want to be safe. Make sure they aren't hurting themselves on the back of that. When they're wearing bonnets, I always make sure that this is all even around the face. And if she were awake, she would be going like this, and this hat would be sort of like uneven. It's a big problem in my practice, is these uneven bonnets. So getting them nice and oval around their face is important. So that's her pose there. I have a little heart if your baby's sleeping. This maybe works better with a swaddle, but you can get their hands together so they're holding this little heart. I have these flowers that I got at a craft store that I would put right here, and that's my kind of boho look, just like that. And what I'm seeing is that my light is getting a little bit darker outside, so maybe what I might do is experiment and take a few photos with this up. It's probably going to be too harsh. I see that this is very dark right here, but I might take this and kick in a little bit of light, and that might help a little bit. See how it makes this a little bit brighter. But you can experiment. You can put the sheet up and then you can pull it back to see if you like the photos like that better. You'll be really surprised at how different it looks when you diffuse the light. I gotta get my paper out because next, after pose, we're talking about settings. So we're on the S. So I have my phone camera here, and I'll show you a couple different things that I do. Sometimes I use portrait mode. We'll start with that. So we go to portrait mode, and what you'll see is that there are a lot of different options in portrait mode. I usually just use the natural light. I feel like the other ones are a little bit gimmicky, but again, you can experiment and see if there's something that you like better. But usually portrait mode, natural light. I'm gonna hold it up until I get it in the frame how I want, and I'm gonna tap on her face and take the picture. And I will show you how it turned out. I kind of like this fabric in it up here, but obviously all these details are really important when you're working with your settings. What you'll find is that the portrait mode sort of zooms it in a little bit, but not very much. I think that one's pretty cute. The other thing that I like to do is put it on the regular photo mode, but then zoom it in a little bit. So I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna take a zoomed in photo. It's just a little bit different than doing it wide angle or doing it just regular. Like it says it's at 1.7 there. You'll see here that you can go in and out and it'll say like 2 or way out like that. I'll take a picture and show you. This one is really not the best because it got my feet. That one's pretty cute, although I cut her feet off a little bit, so you want to be careful not to do that. This is just a detail of her face, really. But this one here, I think, turned out the nicest. I think that's portrait mode. But obviously, take lots of photos once you get your baby in place. I would say I strongly encourage you to get your baby in place and then mess with what's happening after they've sort of settled down. And I often do what I call safe shots, where their hand might be a little funny or outfit might not be perfect, but you take a couple photos just in case that's all you're gonna get. So after that, you can start getting fussy and like move their hands around and hope they don't wake up and start crying. Okay, let's go over the components of my acronym one more time. So we have light, that would be the quality of the light, and the brightness or how diffused you want it to be. And the source, obviously you do want a window. The angle is the angle of the light plus the angle of the baby's head. So that's a 45-degree angle there. And then you want the angle of the actual baby to be positioned how you want the angle of the baby to be positioned in a way that you can focus right on the face. And then the other angle that you want to focus on is the angle of your camera. You don't want it here, you want it here, flat. And then the P for pose, which we talked a little bit about that. It's just something you need to be aware of. And if their hands are in their mouth, if their hands are above them, those are all part of posing. And if you don't get it right, your photo might not turn out how you want it to. It's one of the important components. And then settings on your camera, those are important as well. So lapse, all of these work in harmony. And if one is off, you might not end up with a great photo. So hopefully you can use this acronym to create stunning photos. I can't wait to see what you create.